All right, on this episode of Bowks Talking Bouts, excited to be talking to an individual set to compete at PFC 14, and this all goes down on October 22nd. It is in London, Ontario. We have Jamie, Ingram, and Faisal Rehman getting out into the cage and testing skills with one another, and happy to be talking to Jamie for the first time. How's your day going so far, Jamie?
So far so good, Dylan. Just did a private class with one of the guys fighting at the Rumble this weekend, getting him ready, and now it's I'm getting my own stuff done. So, how are you today?
Oh, I'm doing well, thanks. Good to hear you've got some presumably good work in there, although I feel like that's the norm over at CMAC, just a space that's so family-oriented and supportive, but also a lot of really great work being had in a martial arts kind of sense.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Both my wife and I train there, and we're both instructors, and for the kids' classes, I teach some of the adult classes and that. So, no, it's a great family place, and turn out some pretty good fighters in the meantime, too.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm curious if you like curate your sparring partners at all to like your opponents. Like, do you kind of do that, like in as far as like maybe stylistic patterns or like mirroring body types or anything like that? Like, do you kind of curate your sparring partner dynamic for fights in that kind of sense?
No, not really. We got a pretty good wide variety of body types and different styles in the gym. So I do my best to just kind of get everything thrown at me in the kitchen sink, and then that way, when it doesn't matter who the opponent is across from me, whether it's Dr. Rehman or my previous opponents, it's I generally have seen it before or something very close to it by having a whole different slew of styles come my way.
Yeah, I guess it's just all about being like as adaptable and fluid as you can be when you get in there, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, but you talk about some of the previous opponents there. The last one seemed to be a very important fight for you, getting the unanimous decision victory on that Absolute MMA card in June. Like, how did that moment feel, just getting the W there and everything like that, and just putting on a pretty comprehensive performance all around from what I could tell?
Yeah, no, it was really good getting that W. It's funny, the picture that the PFC chose to promote the fight with was right after I got my hand raised, and I looked grumpy as AF, but it was, in my mind, was next. It was I was already like, I'm on to the next fight, but getting that win was big for me, especially after that first loss. Getting back in there, and I did basically everything that I wanted to do in that fight, with the exception of getting that submission in the first. It slipped out of my fingers, but, well, technically it slipped out of my legs, but yeah. Other than that, I did so many things that I had worked on all camp going into that fight, and it was actually a really big honor to be the very first fight of that promotion ever and get their very first win. I can't thank Sheila Bird and the Absolute MMA crew for giving me that opportunity.
Well, it's kind of interesting you mentioned how good the win felt with the context of having lost previously. I thought it was interesting in the Instagram post after the fight, you were like talking to the different fighters who had lost and just letting them know it's okay. I mean, I feel like that's such a unique spot to be in. Like, as a media person, I feel like I never know really what to say, or that there's even like a sufficient thing to say relative to my position. So it's like kind of like a nice empathetic sort of thing you were articulating there, it seems like.
Yeah, and I have to admit that wasn't something that I thought of. Graham Park from Shaved Bears, I ran into him right about 20 minutes after I lost my first fight, and he beat one of my teammates the night before during the Unified card. And Graham had basically the same conversation with me that I had with a couple of guys back in that locker room. Just say, hey, you guys are young, you guys can do it. I'm older, so it wasn't quite the same, but you guys are young, hold your heads up, you got in there, come back stronger next time. No, figure out what your holes are, figure out what you did wrong, and figure out what you need to work on. And it was, I've got myself into a mentorship role at CMC, even though I'm one of the less experienced coaches on staff. It's one of those things I've always seen myself in a mentor role, and whether it's the guys and gals at my gym or it's other fighters or people in general, it's something that I've done a lot of work on in the last decade or so.
Yeah, that's a cool anecdote with, Graham Park and everything. I think there's a cool dynamic with Shaved Bears and CMC just like a great competitive tradition, but one that's very, sporting oriented and very much like mutual respect between both parties, it seems like. So yeah, that's cool that you gave that anecdote there.
Yeah, no, and that every time we've either like our guys have gone up against each other with Shaved Bears, it's a good friendly rivalry, but everybody always shows up to fight when it's those two gyms. The energy gets amped up just a little bit more.
Yeah, there's really something to those kind of matchups for sure. Just in the sense that you're getting like two really high caliber guys going at it. But I would think you'd be excited for this one, just getting ready to make the pro debut, but also location-wise kind of interesting because the pair of amateur fights that we outlined there both being in Alberta and getting to Ontario for this one. Like, how do you feel about traveling a little bit for the pro debut and everything?
Well, I have yet to fight in my hometown. We couldn't find an opponent for me at the Rumble card coming up on Saturday. So I got offered this fight, and I took it. So I've been the out-of-towner will be the out-of-towner on all three fights that I've had. So it's nothing new. I think the booze will be a little bit louder in London on the 22nd because my opponent's is very respected and has done a lot for MMA in Ontario. So I'm looking forward to the travel aspect of it and just getting away. I haven't traveled much other than driving like to BC a little bit since COVID started. So it'll be nice to get on a plane and get away for a few days and have some fun in the cage and come out of there with my hand raised.
Yeah, and London, Ontario is such like a hotbed historically for like Canadian MMA history. So in like a historical context, kind of cool to compete there, I would think.
Yeah, it is, and then the promotions they do lots of charity work like the Rumble does here at Lethbridge. The promotions is a Beat Kidney. That's the profits go towards the kidney foundation at the London Hospital. So it's a good cause, and anytime when we give back to our community, I'm all for it. Doesn't matter whether it's fighting or it's just community events and that. If it's I'm involved in a lot of different communities groups here in Lethbridge and that. So anytime that's added onto it, it's always a bonus, and I'm always willing to put my name forward for stuff like that.
Yeah, no doubt. I love the component that's, going to charity there, and they've obviously raised a tremendous amount, I think to the scale of even 2.5 million over the years just donating, and I mean, that's just incredible. But it's curious, you were talking about the, maybe partisan leaning of the crowd, maybe being more in the favor of, Dr. Faisal Rehman and everything like that. Like, that's kind of curious. Like, were you, like, I guess acutely aware of like Faisal Rehman and everything before this matchup? Because it is like there's a curious element to it. Like, it's like his annual charity event, and like there's a lot of people that really look up to him in the sense of being able to facilitate doing certain medicals. There's a lot of people that like unironically call him King Faisal and have like that big level of respect for him. Like, what were your thoughts when I guess this matchup came your way and all?
When I was first offered the matchup, I knew nothing about him. Of course, I went and started looking him up and saw his history of working with the UFC when they came to Toronto, working with the commission in Ontario, doing all the work to help, and then just the list of fighters. Like, if you just even go look on the PFC Facebook page, all of the fighters who say, "Way to go!" Like, good to see you and stuff to Faisal and that. So, like, he's done a lot for MMA in Ontario. So there's a lot of, just like Lee has done a lot for MMA in Canada. He's done a lot for them in Ontario. So it's honestly, it's a bit of an honor to be able to step in the cage with somebody that well respected, that's older like I am. It's the first time I fought an older opponent. I'm 42, so it'll be it's the same height and older than me, so it'll be a little different. But the level of respect that's been shown to him, and the people that are saying it are people that I trust and know from out there. So if they're saying it, means that he's doing lots of good things out there. So it's really cool.
Well, that is a good way to put it too, because I feel like the Lethbridge scene does so much with like the Rumble shows, and I mean even like through like CMC and stuff like that, to just be very helpful and altruistic and community involved. Like, I even saw you at like the Lethbridge exhibition a little bit ago there and everything. Like, just seems like a very community oriented kind of effort there and everything like that. Like, how important is it to be interwoven in the community and really like really show that positive representation for martial arts, because that can create like so much individual confidence and also a strong sense of community too.
Oh, it's hugely important. Like I said earlier, it's being involved in our community in a positive way is very important. And as I've gotten older, I've really focused on that, and being a part of different community groups and being involved in the community. And like, even when like COVID happened, we did our very best to like work within the rules that the Alberta government put out to still keep our kids' classes going, which meant we moved them to an outdoor park over by my house. My wife and I taught kid classes in a park while some of the restrictions were going on. So we kept those kids going, get them still involved in the martial arts. Whenever Rumble happens, there's various organizations that a lot of the proceeds go towards. My first fight that I had, I raised money for Youth One, a local organization here that help teenagers in Lethbridge, and just various other community groups. The Green and Yellow group is another one that I've done some work with that are putting the community forward and being very positive and giving back. I've been given so many things in my life that I'm now in a place in my life where it's my turn to give back and be in that role. And CMC and a lot of people there are the same way, and that's part of the reason why myself and my wife are really drawn to the Canadian Martial Arts Centre, is because of that community and that sense of giving back to our community. And one more thing on that, it was my wife and I live across the street from a school, and in 2019 there was a attempted child abduction. Okay. And so I went in and I talked to Lee later that day about maybe putting on a child abduction seminar, what to do, how to get away if you're grabbed, so on and so forth. And I figured it would take us probably a week or two to set everything up. Lee and Jen had the seminar set up, ready to go by the next day. An hour after it was announced, it was full. The next day we announced the second one. It filled up within a day, and we did it all for free. It was an anti-abduction seminar that we did for the community, all free. A bunch of the coaches came in, set it all up. I put on full hockey equipment and let the kids go full ham on me, as if they were being abducted. And it was a great couple of days where we gave back to the community, and we brought some people to the gym that had never been there before, but they want to be able to protect their kids or have their kids know what to do. And it was something I'm really proud of to be a part of. It was a little brainchild of myself and my wife, and I brought it to Lee and Jen, and we just ran with it, and it was an amazing way of giving back to our community.
Yeah, I love hearing stuff like that, man. Like, I mean, it's just such a great community in Lethbridge for the martial arts and stuff like that, and obviously like turning a terrible situation into like a very impactful learning experience there. But you kind of were talking about something a bit earlier that I thought was interesting, just feeling like more so being in a place in your life where you could kind of be that positive role model. I relatively recently saw you had that post that was talking about the now 13 plus years of sobriety, and just being like a martial artist, like the ethos of that is very much like a discipline minded day-to-day focus on just, I guess, like staying the course, as it were. Like, how much of that like martial arts ethos and just the discipline that comes with that, how much did that inform the sobriety? How much does that inform the sobriety and all?
It helps reinforce it very much. I got sober like 13 plus years ago, and I didn't join CMC until 2019. So I spent a few years in sobriety before I got there, but I had started training jiu-jitsu back in 2008. I got injured, and then alcohol took over my life, and I never went back. I trained for like 4 or 5 months, and then alcohol destroyed my life, and I was very selfish and self-centered. And when I got sober, it was one of those things where that sense of building that community of like-minded individuals started with me. And then I started building on that, and then got to a point where it's my turn to give back to that community, which I still do to this day. But it's very much the same mindset where it's like the discipline, the staying on task, the staying very set in positive things. And when that mental mindset starts to go to dark places, which it all happens to all of us, it still happens to me, the the sobriety and the martial arts mentality helped pull myself out of those dark places way faster than they ever did in the past. And walking into that gym is just like walking into one of my meetings for my alcoholism. It's one of those things where it just helps reinforce that I'm in a positive place doing positive things and helping somebody else other than myself. And that's how I stay the way I am today. It's giving away what was freely given to me. So it's pretty cool to be able to do that now.
Yeah, I love hearing that, man. That's so important and so powerful, and it's great that you put that out there for also other people to, be inspired by. Like maybe some people are in a spot where they don't know that they can, become sober and kind of stay the course. Maybe they see someone who's, stuck it out for 13 years and it motivates them to go that route. So good you're talking about that and just having people kind of follow along with the journey there.
Yeah, and it's something that when I first got sober, I was very quiet about it. When I was still drinking, everybody knew I was a drunk before I did, so I didn't really hide anything then. And then I started hiding myself a bit in sobriety, trying to figure things out. And as I've gotten older, I've realized that mental health and mental awareness and drug addiction, especially now and the way our society is such a big thing, and it's running so rampant that being quiet is not the right move anymore, because people need to see that getting sober can be done. And staying sober is easier than people think it is, but it's hard at the same time. I know it's I'm speaking out of both sides of my mouth on that, but it's something that I'm very active about. I'm open about it. I'm open about like my mental health stuff, and anybody asks me questions, I'm an open book. And it's one of those things where I want to be a positive influence on the people around me, so that they know that, hey, dark times come. It's instead of thinking about you're being buried, think about being planted. You're about to grow a new plant, and that seed is growing, and it's something that I've really focused on. And I want to plant as many seeds as I can with other people who are in dark places and help them flourish.
Well, that's a great way to look at it, man, and I'm glad you're kind of going that route with it. But I guess one of the last things I wanted to touch on here, because your opponent, Faisal Rehman, similar kind of dynamic to you, bit of like amateur experience before. I guess I'm curious if you've maybe had an ability to like check out tape on his previous fights, if there's like an awareness to maybe some like stylistic proclivities he brings to the table, or if this one's more about focusing on what you're doing and kind of adapting as the fight unfolds as it does.
It's a little bit of both. I have watched a couple of his previous stuff. I watched his boxing match from 2012. I watched a couple of his kickboxing fights that he's had, and that's basically about it that's out there for him. So there's not a whole lot to work off of. So I know that he's worked stand up, and I know he's coming out of a great gym. That gym in Ontario is Sam Stout, Chris Hordesky, and Mark Hominick. That is a great gym. Those guys are some of the pioneers in Canada for MMA. So I know that he's putting the work in. I know he's on the ground and standing. So it's I mainly focus on what my strengths are, where my holes are, so I can shore those up before the 22nd. And I'm mostly concentrated on getting myself into a position where I can do what I want to do when I need to do it.
Yeah, for sure. I can get what you're laying down in that sense. But you've been really great with your time, Jamie, and I do want to be mindful of your schedule. But yeah, a lot of great insights throughout the chat, which I appreciate. But to the point of your schedule and being mindful of your time and all, is there anything you might want to like add as a parting thought as we're wrapping up here, man?
Thanks for your time, Dylan. It's greatly appreciated. And I'm just looking forward to the 22nd, getting out into Ontario there and putting on a show for the folks out there and having a good time and getting some good training in and enjoying the sunshine while it lasts, because I don't think it's going to last much longer for us. So, but other than that, thanks for your time, and I hope everybody out there listening has a great day, and we'll see you all on the 22nd.
Yeah, well, that's an awesome note to end things off on, and yeah, I share in that sentiment. Very much excited for PFC 14 in London, Ontario, and this is going to be a very intriguing fight, part of what is, a stacked-looking card on a broader level. But yeah, to reiterate, I appreciate you coming on the show, Jamie. Super appreciate it. And also, you enjoy the rest of your day there, and good luck with the fight and just the remaining preparations. And I guess just looking forward to, being there and checking it out when it goes down too.
Awesome. Thanks, Dylan. Have a great day.
All right, on this episode of Bowks Talking Bouts, excited to be talking to an individual who will be stepping into the cage on October 22nd in London, Ontario at Budweiser Gardens as part of PFC 14. A very intriguing professional bout between Jamie Ingram and Faisal Rehman, and happy to be talking to Faisal on today's show. How's your day going so far, man?
Good. It's going good. The last couple of months has been very hectic as we're getting our charity event up and running, especially after COVID. But very exciting. For the first time in 14 years, we sold out the floor 2 months ahead of time. So, 65 tables of 10 completely full. So we're jam-packed on the floor. We still have tickets up in the stands. So we're working hard to promote those. The fights are coming together quite nicely. And we're going to raise some much-needed funds for 8 amazing charities. So we're really looking forward to that.
Yeah, I mean, what an amazing effort over the last few years. Like, I was seeing in one of the posts related to the event that over $2.5 million has been raised for, kidney disease, combating that and everything. And I just think that's so incredible. Like, what an amazing altruistic thing to be attached to, like, a combat sports event. It's just really cool to see.
14 years ago, I was put in charge for our division of nephrology here at the London Health Sciences Centre to raise money for research. And I said, you know what? If we're going to raise money for research, it has to involve something that I'm passionate about. And I've always been passionate about boxing, kickboxing, and mixed martial arts. And so back in 2009, we started our first event at the Convention Center. We had George Chuvalo as our guest, and we did amateur boxing between the United States and Canada, and I fought on that card. And then we've never looked back. We moved on to amateur kickboxing. We did a few music concerts. We went on to do professional kickboxing, professional MMA now. And so over 14 years, we've raised over $2.7 million. And that's after all expenses paid. And because of our success, we're not just giving money to kidney research causes. We're putting it towards the Unity Project, which is an amazing homeless shelter here in London that helps people battling homelessness. We donate money to children who are vulnerable children who need our help. We donate money to poverty initiatives, to epilepsy research, to kidney transplant, liver transplant, and pancreas transplant programs. And so we're really quite excited to be able to help our community at large. And we're very proud to say that our money stays local. It has a national impact, but a lot of the money stays in London to help programs in London.
Yeah, it's such a great community event, and awesome that it's helping subvert so many, negative situations for a lot of people there and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, you're definitely no stranger to competing on the different, PFC events and stuff like that, from what I can tell with like the kickboxing and some amateur MMA there. Like, why did making the pro debut for this one kind of line up perfectly for you? Like, what kind of led to, this decision here?
You know what? It's my third midlife crisis. As I get older, I want to live my life to the fullest. And I tell my children, I want you guys to live your lives to your fullest. Don't look at tomorrow. Do what you can today. Enjoy today as much as you can, because you never know. Life is fragile, and you only get one kick at the can. And I don't want to have any regrets. And I always wanted to participate in a professional combat sports event. It was a dream of mine. And actually, prior to COVID, I was planning on doing it. And then after the pandemic happened, everything got shut down. I said, well, I don't care how old I am. I'm going to go for it. And it was challenging because of my age. The commission wasn't really happy. I had to go through extra testing for looking for neurological and cardiovascular problems. And then on top of that, then I had to spar under their observation for 7 5-minute rounds to show my skills. And so I did all of that and got through all of that successfully. And I got my professional license, and I'm ready to go. And I'm planning on really doing my best to perform on that night to the best of my ability. And I'm looking forward to getting my first professional win.
And just what was the experience like with that, skill assessment there? Because I had noticed you posted that circa like early August there. Like, what was that whole experience like? It seems like a curious kind of dynamic, like auditioning to take a pro fight almost. Like, it strikes me as a curious kind of dynamic.
Well, you know what? A lot of people who are close to me are not in favor of what I'm doing. And they're, and that comes from a good place. They care and they don't want to see me get hurt. I've been hurt a lot in training and in competition. And so I can understand why the commission was concerned. On the other hand, part of it did hurt my ego, saying, why do I have to go through this shit? I have to do all these extra medical tests and train. But you know what? The commission's concerned about safety. I'm old. And so I just, I complied with what they needed me to do. And so initially a little bit of anger maybe, but then after I was done, especially with it successful, I can understand their perspective that they don't want the liability of someone who's older getting hurt in the cage. And so it's all about athlete safety. And I think that should be of utmost concern for all of us, so I can understand where they were coming from.
Yeah, I mean, to the point of you saying it was like maybe a bit of an ego blow, I would think that there'd be a bit of catharsis, or maybe that's not the word, maybe like a sense of like validation or something in that kind of realm, just like, getting to be able to go out there and showcase your skills in the face of having to kind of go through that initial testing, I suppose.
There was a sense of validation, but let's be honest, fighting is different than sparring. And so I have no false kind of thoughts in my mind that just because I got through that, it's going to be a breeze in the cage.
Yeah.
It's a completely different ball game, throwing elbows and knees to the head and trying to do maximum damage. It's a completely different ball game. So I enjoyed the fact that I was successful at getting my pro license, but now it's really, I've had a great training camp. The intensity's been really high, and I've already cut like 15 pounds in weight just from the intensity of the training, and I'm feeling great, and so everything's on par for me to hopefully do well on October the 22nd.
Yeah, it seems like some great work has been had with Chris Clement and everything like that, from what I can tell per social media. Like, who would you say the main crew is you've been getting in work with? Like, obviously the area is such a, mixed martial arts hotbed presently and historically, but like, who are you like mostly refining the skills with ahead of this one?
I have the best teammates ever, and I have a wide group of people who are supporting me. And so Chris Clement has always been my main trainer. I've been training with him for almost 15 years now. And he focuses on my striking and my overall game plan. Chad Laprice has been super helpful for many aspects of my game, both striking and the ground game, and I'm indebted to him as well. And then my boxing coach and strength and conditioning coach, Tavina Coombs, two-time national boxing champion from Kitchener, who runs a special needs boxing program, actually, that does a tremendous work for the community, the Fierce and Fit Special Needs Boxing Program. They've been really helpful, and Tavina's really got me in top shape when it comes to my strength, conditioning, stamina. And so those are my three main trainers. And then I'm very grateful to all the guys at the gym, like Gino Galapardez, Matty Haborka, Jamie Flick, Gordy, all of those guys, Sam Stout, Mark Hominick, all of those guys have been so helpful in helping me get ready for October the 22nd. And again, in all aspects of my game, whether it be the ground game or striking.
Yeah, it seems to be a strong camaraderie there. Like, I thought it was cool that Gino Galapardis sent you the blood-splattered glove after his last win there. That's a fun souvenir.
Yeah, no, that's a kind of, those are the kind of, people really can't buy me anything, to be honest with you. So, so I love getting presents like that, because that's right up my alley. Blood and a combat sports glove doesn't get any better. Goes along with my Mike Tyson glove back in the back there.
Yeah, I love it. The memorabilia, the keepsakes, always very cool from combat sports in general. But, you know, we're talking about, like, you having a great, like, localized gym culture where you're at in London. Like, I really also do enjoy the Lethbridge kind of gym culture that Jamie Ingram comes from as well. I kind of posited the question to him when I spoke to him because, like, you guys have kind of, like, around the same level of experience, certain, like, amateur MMA forays and whatnot. I'd asked if he'd seen certain tape on you, and he's like, oh, I've seen some kickboxing and stuff like that. Have you been able to see any footage on Ingram that you're adding to the game plan at all?
Yeah, you know, a little bit for sure. There's some stuff on the internet, but really, I don't watch a lot of tape. I know that's an important part of planning for a combat sports event, but I really just want to do what I'm good at. So I'm going to focus on what I want to do, trying to control what happens in the cage, trying to impose my will. I think that's what I'm going to be focusing on, and you know what? It should be a great fight. I think it'll be an awesome event, and I'm so happy Jamie Ingram's coming up and supporting our charity too, so I'm grateful to him and his gym.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I can understand that mentality too, like more so focusing on what you're doing to kind of, you know, lead the dance and everything and be as like adaptable as you can when you get out there. Like that's more the mentality coming in.
100%. That's exactly it. I just plan on trying to impose my pace, my plan on my opponent. That's how I approach every fight.
Yeah, and I think you have a cool story too. Like it seems like combat sports has been such a, you know, big part of your, you know, personal life and stuff like that. Like I even saw the article a few years back where you were like very much, you know, caught up in like the busy work schedule and stuff like that and really used like combat sports training to really just get the general wellness back and everything like that. So how important has martial arts been just even as like a, you know, lifestyle kind of attachment and whatnot? Like it seems very, you know, beneficial in a myriad of ways.
It's become my life. It saved my life. You know, back in 2002, I think it was, I applied for life insurance because I bought a house I couldn't afford. I was kind of a new doctor. And so I wanted to make sure my family was secure. And they did all this blood work on me and found that in addition to be super fat, I mean, it was 242 pounds, which on my frame didn't look good. I also had high sugar, high blood pressure, high cholesterol. And so they said, we're not insuring you at all. That really shook me up because I said, shit, I've neglected my own health because of my work schedule or whatever excuses it was I used. And so from that moment on, I put all my efforts into getting back into shape, eating healthy, training, and combat sports was a huge part of that. And I got so into it. You know, I'm a kind of a person of extremes a little bit. When I was fat, I would eat like no tomorrow. People would be impressed with how much food I could put away.
Yeah.
When I started training, it was the same thing. I lost over 90 pounds in 6 months through combat sports training and primarily, and got myself in top shape. My blood was all normalized, and I got life insurance again. My blood pressure is actually now low. And several years later now, I'm still in good shape. My blood work is still great, and I'm in great health. And so I'm very grateful to martial arts for just instilling a way of life that's been so healthy for me. And so, you know what? I plan on living this healthy lifestyle for the rest of my life, and it really has made a huge impact on me. And so then when you know, fast forward, you know, I'm you know, at home, things are going well. And my second child, my daughter Nadia, became very sick, and she had acute leukemia. And that was another moment. That was a life-changing moment for me because she went through a very difficult time, chemotherapy for 2.5 years or so. And I vowed to, you know what, to try and make sure that I live my life to not only help myself, but to help others, because especially going through these types of challenges. And so that really kind of got me more involved with charity work. And then when my work colleagues asked me to raise money for research, I kind of combined everything to include combat sports, helping medical research, but also helping deal with poverty and homelessness. is so important to me. And vulnerable populations like children and such. So it's a blessing. I'm so grateful for the last 14 years of running this charity event, and I'm so blessed that I can even participate and have the opportunity now to have a professional fight and hopefully do very well on it. So it's been, I'm just full of gratitude that these opportunities have become available to me.
Yeah, for sure, and that's awesome to hear. I mean, health is, so paramount and everything like that. So, yeah, good to hear everything well in that kind of regard and everything like that. But I noticed a post a little bit ago, like you're talking about the fam and stuff like that. It seemed like you took in some WWE action a little bit ago. How was that?
Yeah, so my son Rehan, I've had him involved with martial arts since he was a young kid. He'd come to Adrenaline with me and train with Chad Laprise and Jesse Goff and others. And, we do everything together. We've been to Vegas to watch the UFC together when he was 8. And then we went to some WWE shows as he grew older. And we both kind of loved the same things. So we just went out to watch the WWE a few weeks ago, and they're here in London, and we had a blast. So spending time with my children is important, and I want to make sure that when I'm so busy at work that when I do have time that we do a lot of fun things that we all enjoy.
And I guess that kind of poses an interesting question, because before you were talking about like how people closest to you maybe aren't necessarily like as fired up about this as like in the context of like wanting you to be safe and stuff like that. Are they going to be in attendance for the fight, checking it out? Like, how's that dynamic going to be, you think?
So believe it or not, there are people who are very close to me who are not going to attend. They're so upset with me for participating because I fully admit this. I promised a few years ago that I wasn't going to compete anymore and just focus on other things. So it has been challenging, but I have a huge number of people who bought tickets to come and attend. So a lot of my friends and family will be there, but I completely respect people who are worried about me. It comes from a good place. So I don't hold any resentment at all that they don't want to come. They've been for all of my previous competitions, some of these individuals, but I can understand their concern. I just plan on proving anyone who doesn't believe that I'm going to win or do well, I plan on proving them all wrong in hopefully devastating fashion.
Yeah, and I think like you're a very interesting case because I think it really like illustrates the passion for martial arts, just like how much you're involved in like fighter medicals, your given profession and everything like that. Like I think more acutely aware than the vast majority of people about the physical ramification of the sport, but I think that really just conveys the passion for the martial arts and wanting to do it in a beautiful way, just really understanding the full context of everything. So yeah,
I mean, it's not a common thing. I mean, I'm not going to pretend that competing in mixed martial arts is good for your personal health, but it is good for your personal health when it comes to physical exercise and well-being. But there's risk involved, and concussions and bony, musculoskeletal injuries and such, all of which I've suffered from. But it's just such a rewarding thing to be able to compete one-on-one with someone, and it's a feeling when you enter the ring or the cage, that feeling of, okay, here it's on. That exhilaration is something that's very addictive. And I love it. I love the competition. And I'm not going to pretend it's good for you. I'm not going to make any arguments that it's super safe. But the excitement, the aura, the whole environment that surrounds a fight event is something that I love and can't be replicated in any other sport in my opinion.
Yeah, I love that explanation, and yeah, such a beautiful sport for sure, but I do want to be mindful of your schedule, as I was saying earlier, man. I appreciate you making some time to talk a bit before the fight, but I'm sort of curious if there's maybe anything you want to add as a parting thought as we're kind of wrapping up here, Faisal.
Well, you know what? Thank you so much for including me on your podcast, Don. It's very kind of you. I think, I just implore our community members to come out and support the event. All of the money raised, all profits raised goes straight to the charities. We pay the fighters because they what sacrifice they put in, so we try to pay them. We do pay them, but everything else, after the costs are all taken care of, all goes to charity, and most of the money stays here in London. So it'd be amazing if our community can come out and support us. We have people from all over Ontario who are buying tickets, actually. The research that's done here helps kidney patients throughout North America, the world, because London is one of the top centers in the world for kidney research and transplant-related research. And also, helping homeless shelters and poverty initiatives is good for our society. So come out and support. You'll have a great night of fights, and it should be an evening to remember.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember going to the PFC event a couple of years ago before the pandemic, or I guess a few years ago now, and just such a great time. It's awesome to have that kind of excitable live sport environment, and it going to such an altruistic series of causes for sure. And just, really appreciate you coming on the show ahead of PFC 14, man. And anyone that wants to get tickets, pfctix.com. Sounds like there's still a bit left, but don't leave it too long there. October 22nd coming up sooner rather than later. But I do appreciate, to reiterate, you coming on the show there, man. Best of luck with the final stretch of the training, and looking forward to being there and checking out the fight when it goes down.
Amazing, Dylan. Thank you so much for including me. Take care.